may have to get inspired myself through the course. All right, so again, I want to emphasize, from my own experience, I was introduced to the course and satsang and stuff, and then really things happened. So like the solution, and it's not a solution, it's just what is, had already dawned, but then it started to inform me about what you would call the problem. Yeah. So, and I found the best knowledge is from the solution about the problem, not about the problem trying to find the solution. Yeah? But the solution reveals to you a lot of stuff, and one of that stuff was echoed by, when I ran into it, by some writings by Ramana, and that was the birth of the whole selfing idea, because it makes no sense to move forward to try to arrive at where you are. Yeah? So what is that activity that displaces us and puts us in another starting point? Yeah? And because if we don't see that, we're going to be looking from it. So when you hear the message, it's not so much the message, it's how it's being heard. Yeah? This is the dilemma I saw when I was going to the talks and meetings. And I saw it in my own little laboratory, that mental process is very quick, and it's going to, whatever message it catches, it's going to neuter the message. So it's going to turn it, it's going to translate it either into an experience or phenomena or something like that. But you will always be emphasized in it, the sense of you, and you will have a big role in it. Like it's going to be more, that which is will be more, the emphasis will be on you more than that which is. That which is will have no traction unless you do something or have something or work on it, or that. And to me, that's totally ludicrous. So it's like switching priority. Yeah, that which comes after implies it's before. And therefore, it looks at what is before as a topic, or as something it can get, or it can understand, or it can become, or it can expand, or in most cases, it can extract or subtract or distance from. As soon as it gets to be in the position of priority, its meaning is more dominant than that which is. Yeah. And then that which is will become a topic to that which isn't. And therefore, when you believe you run into it and know it, it's totally conceptualized. It's already been translated and digested for the system to sort of just suck it into itself. And so it's seeing what you're not. That's it. That's the solution. You see what you're not. And it actually becomes so ordinary, that which seemed to indicate a lot about you, all your interests and all where the attention went, gets shifted. And that which was really, let's say, the moving drive in seemingly your life gets totally snuffed out. And therefore, it's really like dog shit awareness. And it's not about getting high. It's just what is. And it has an incredible effect, because it's sort of like, instead of trying to apply a color onto the painting to change the painting, this comes from behind the canvas and just sort of pushes the colors out and then reshuffles them. Yeah. And then instead of thinking you're like a fixed little picture, you're more like a mural. You're like a living mural. And after a while, when you see that everything is just happening, that life is happening, life is not happening to me, the sense of nowness is seen. It's a construction. It's like a skyscraper that the mental state seems to build. And then you see it, yeah? And you see it, and then when the mental state claims the seeing, it builds another skyscraper called the seer. And there's no seer. There's just seeing. And there's nothing behind the seeing. There's just seeing. And it's like that thing I was saying yesterday. There's an expansion in mind, big M mind. Mind doesn't expand, but there's an expansion in it, or you have a realization, and it's almost that realization, its echo goes out and never hits anything. Bum, 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 bum. And then something, the only way that which, it's like an intimation of what you are. It's intimated. It's like a finding out. It's like a whiff of scent or something. You can't put your finger on it because you cannot have an experience of it. You're so it, yeah? That's all the role you have. You can't move yourself anywhere. It's sort of like, where are you going to move in everywhere? So I like the idea, this is how it's worked with me, is disperse attention, disperse awareness, just like the sunlight. When it starts to focus, there's a lot lost in the view. Yeah. When there's an intention, there's a lot lost in the view. If it's just like dog shit awareness, yeah, you have a very wide base. And the aperture doesn't contract or expand much anymore. It's just a wide berth, so to speak. Yeah. And I notice how it manifests here as this experience or this event is that you'll travel lighter in spite of yourself, really. You'll travel lighter. You'll travel lighter, and then things like when I leave North Carolina, it'll be like I never was fucking in North Carolina. That's what it's like. And when I go home, I can't say anything about a talk. All I can say about is they had really nice, kale salad or something, or, whatever. It's just like, it's so, all the partitionings and the lines and the separation just fades out. It's not like no one goes in there and changes it. It just fades out of its own accord with no thought or effort on your part. You're just the recipient of it. You're basically at the end of the line. It's like you know the tree by the fruit. Yeah, that's basically it. You've been tasting the fruit, and then it starts informing you, hey, that's the only way you can know the tree. You can't know the tree by the tree. You are the tree. Yeah. So I wanted to read this from the Course. Because this is how it was revealed to me. There's a heist going on that we're unaware of. The mental state is very fast, and the sense of self, which is this feeling of being a long-lasting, independent, separate entity, which is implied by the doing being captured by the selfing and being used to imply the doer. The feelings, the same thing, yes? There's this, what arises with all that activity is there's a sense that you're that which is being inferred, assumed, implied all day. And it's very, very quick. And most people are starting from it. They have no idea. They may have the greatest security system, but the thief is already in the house. And when you're punching in the password for the security system, it's looking right over your shoulder. It has totally access because every time it enters any phase of your life, you call it me. Yeah? So this is from the Course. Sometimes I'm tired of hearing it from the way I say it, so I like to read something else, yeah? And obviously, if I read a dead master, it seems to have more authority than Paul Hedderman from fucking Long Island. But it's like you ever have a girlfriend or boyfriend, and every time you tell them some great news, they never get it, or great advice. So you have to tell a friend of theirs, and then my girlfriend will call me, oh, Susan is amazing. She told me this, and I told Susan. But she's not going to listen if it's from me. Yeah? All right, so here. So this first sentence is a description of selfing, yeah? The first sentence here, because I can't find what it's referring to, but it's a description of selfing, okay? So what the Course in Miracles does quite a lot, it describes the manufacturing of the self. Yeah. So that you can wake up to being, hey, you're in a house of cards, but you're the biggest card. If that card gets pulled out, the whole house collapses. It's all resting on this sense of being a long-lasting, independent, separate entity. The whole point. Without that, when that assumption is taken to be a fact, this whole story has a lot of freaking meaning. So here he goes. Yet we have heard a very similar description earlier, but it was not of you. This is the only thing I humbly believe you can teach. You can teach about what you're not. Yeah? But still, this strange idea, which it does accurately describe, you think is you. And the emphasis on the word think. Yeah? The only way you can get to it as you is thinking it is you. Without the thinking, it has no traction whatsoever. So it's you think is you. Reason would tell you that the world you see through eyes that are not yours, these right here, must make no sense to you. To whom would seeing such as this send back its messages? So the messages of the physical eyes are not sending back this message to what you are. It's sending it back to what you're not. The story of self. Yeah. This reaffirms you're separate. You're in a world of others. You were born. You're going to die. And it brings the assumption into relevance by the identification as a body. Without the body, the selfing would have no fucking literal or figurative legs to stand on. It has to have an object that can be thought about. Right? So here, he uses this quite a lot, or whoever it is, of course. He always uses reason would tell you, but let's say wisdom would tell you. Or let's say clear mind would tell you. And it's not something that's produced. Clear mind has never been unclear. The mirror reflects. You don't have to polish it. Yet we have heard, so here, reason would tell you that the world you see through eyes that are not yours must make no sense to you. Yeah? To whom would seeing such as this send back its messages? Surely not you. So the radio station is producing its own audience. You're not listening to it. There's a listening to it. When there is a listening to it, then there's a sense of you. There is no you listening to it. It's the listening to it that produces the sense of you. So the selfing, like people get in touch with me a lot because they like the terminology selfing. It seems to help. So they call me up and they go, oh, Paul, I've been selfing all day. That's not it. See, the feeling of being the one who was selfing all day, that's it. Or they go, oh, selfing has been driving me crazy. That's not it. It's the idea that you're someone that's being driven crazy by the selfing. That's it. That's the product of selfing. That's the sense. It's just like when people speak of ego. But every time they speak of ego, they talk about it as my ego. I lost my ego. So therefore, the ego isn't it. It's the feeling of the one who has the ego and the one who loses the ego only to rehab the ego again. That you never changes. The you is there. The false you is there when you have an ego. It's there when you seemingly lose an ego. To me, ego is just an objectification of selfing, by selfing. All right, so here. So surely, I always like to repeat it because I lose it. Where it is, surely not you whose sight is wholly independent of the eyes that look upon the world. If this is not your vision, what can it show to you? It can show to you it's not your vision. That's its service. Just like all practices, their greatest service is to recognize you don't need to practice. Yeah? Skillful means are incredible, but the greatest meaning of a tool is when you don't have to pick it up anymore. So if this is not your vision, what can it show to you? That it's not your vision. That's the whole beauty of it. By recognizing what you're not, you're actually freed beautifully to be what you are because you've always been what you are. Yeah? All you have to see is what you're not. And when the emphasis is not on that which you're not, and it shifts to the seeing, that's that. You can't go any farther back. And you can't add additions on it. You know, you can't build a 4-story building on it. You can't open it up as a temple. It's just that, that's that. The brain cannot interpret what your vision sees. Now, to me, this is a form of looking called self-centeredness. Yeah? It sees life as how it pertains to me as a body. That's what it does. That's its job. It's its programming. Yeah? When they're talking about vision, this isn't what they're talking about. They're talking about the shirt that you should buy that we have out here. The seeing. Yeah? The seeing is that awareness. Yes? The seeing is that awareness. It's almost like you having a real name tag. It's not Barbara seeing, it's seeing. Yeah? Everyone could have the same name tag at the convention. We're going to the convention of seeing, and everyone I meet is seeing. And the head speaker is seeing. Exactly. So if this is not your vision, what can it show you? The brain cannot interpret what your vision sees, which you would understand. Yeah. The brain interprets to the body. The brain interprets everything that's going on to the body. It says you're a body. All the collating, all the regurgitating never escapes the reference that you're a body. Even when you want to not to be a body, you're wanting not to be a body as a body. The brain interprets to the body of which it is a part, but what it says you cannot understand. Exactly. The apparatus is telling the story about life as an apparatus without knowing it's an apparatus. It's sort of like there's a movie where the clone has human programming. So it's working on this, a movie called Moon I like. So let's say the clone has human programming, and it has like he wears a Boston Red Sox hat, and he's got pictures of his family who he has never seen, literally. And he has all these banners from the last time the Red Sox won, which was a long time ago. No. And he has a whole life of being this. And then something happens where he has indisputable evidence that he's a clone. He finds 1,000 of them, of me. All different models, right? So, all right, so they're indisputable evidence, just like a message maybe. You hear the message is very, very clear. But what receives the message that it's a clone is the human programming. It doesn't go to clone. It gets caught, yeah, in the false intermediary, and now you get the news that you're a clone, and to a human being, it would be a pretty fucking shitty news. What? I'm a clone? I mean, you'd have incredible distaste for being a clone with your human programming. But beautiful news would be clone to clone. It would make it so much easier. You could take the Red Sox banners, you could add any team up there. Yeah? You would travel lighter, literally. But you see how quick the message, the sense of self is very, 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 very fast. It arises. See, the beautiful news is we don't arise. We are there completely. It's sort of like a gunslinger. I don't believe any process can outgun the process of selfing. And any town, it's pretty damn fast. But timelessness can outdraw it because the gun is always out. Yeah. So the seeming solution is right where you are right now at all times with no requirement necessary other than the ones you believe they are, really. Yeah. And if you really believe it, then you better fucking do it. If you really believe you need to meditate, I would meditate. Literally. So this speed of this arising can only be seen. It cannot be seen from after the process. It can only actually be seen before the process, and that's what I am. That's what I am. All of us as I am is the timelessness. And therefore, we can see the arising of self And when you see something arising and then something getting agitated and seemingly disappearing, what is suddenly going to become obvious? You're that which is seeing what's arising. You're that which never comes and goes. You're that which has witnessed everything that rode in and everything that rode out of town. You're there. It's like you're the station where all the trains move through. The station never freaking moves, but all the trains move through it. That's that kind of sense, because it brings such an assurance that you're okay and you outshine circumstances and situations with not any heroic effort. It's just clear. Yeah? You have an immunity to what's not happening because literally it's not happening. Yeah? And so now you're rooted in a way with you did not put down an anchor. You're rooted already in the sense of that onness. And you see blue is blue and red is red. Things become clear. Yeah? And so you're really just the effect of that. Yeah? So here with this, but what it says you cannot understand, yet you have believed in it. You have listened to it. See, this is it. Can you understand if seemingly you as a kid showed up right now and stood in front of us and you were flipping out, the kid wouldn't see it. It's totally in what's happening. He'd think you're fucking crazy. He would think that you're auctioning off today for yesterday and tomorrow and just thoughts about yesterday and tomorrow. He would think you're insane. When you were playing when you were young, were you worried about playing next week? There was no time had set up yet. When you were walking around your house, did you think your room was too small? Or your mother was ugly? Were you trying to get into the moment? You hadn't entertained the insane idea you could be out of the moment. Really? There's no one that's been out of any freaking moment you've been in, ever. You cannot. There's no way. Without you, there's no moment. But do you see the insanity? The mental state is like bizarro world. It assumes the impossible, and then it makes the total possibility seem impossible. But what it says you cannot understand, yet you have listened to it. And long and hard you tried to understand its messages. You have not realized it is impossible to understand what fails entirely to reach you. You have received no messages at all you understand. For you have listened to what can never communicate at all. Think then what happens. Yes. Denying what you are. How are we in a denial of what we are? We're in a denial of what we are by asserting and reinforcing the idea of what we're not. We're not, but that's what mind's doing. Yes, it's simple as that. Yeah? And it says we're in a denial of what we are, denying what you are, and firm in faith. Because if there was no faith in this story, there would be no story. And firm in faith that you are something else. This something else that you have made to be yourself becomes your sight. You start seeing from here. All the information's collated about things. And then space is never noticed at all. You don't know what the hell all this is. Yeah? The something else that you have made to be yourself becomes your sight. Yet it must be the something else that sees and as not you. Explains its sight to you incessantly. Your vision would, of course, render this quite unnecessary. Vision renders this quite unnecessary. You can see through what's not so instantaneously. If you want to be you that sees it through it, it's going to take tons of fucking time. But the seeing through it is instantaneous. It's always available at times. The dilemma is the you arises, and now that hitches a ride with you, and then you want to be there to get it. I've seen it, tons of these talks. People are just If we weren't civilized, we'd be fucking throwing things at fucking people because 500 meetings and fucking and he has it and I haven't gotten it. And yet, because what's happening is we want to be there to get it. We want that which we're not to get it. We want to have an experience of our own absence, but we want to be around to talk about it. It's that stubbornness of the system, and either subtly or really, really obviously we're aligned with it, is what causes what's in plain sight to be unseen. Because of what? Because of the way we're looking. We're looking in a programmed manner that's totally built not to see what's seen, not to sense what's seen. And it will look for it forever because it will be emphasized in all the looking. And when there's the seeing, it gets totally, totally underemphasized. And we can go on, but see, the farther you go away from this point, the more fucking dark passages can jump in. Yeah. But if you can pull the car back, yeah, just realize there's a fucking, you can pull it back and then you'll see the production of what you're not. Now, you seem to be resting in what's always available at all times, and how you travel here as this will change dramatically with the least amount of freaking effort. This became the last answer. I haven't worked on this ever, for years. It's as live and bright, vibrant as it always is. I don't go home and think about this shit. Fucking, why? This is a seed assignment. I show up and I share because something's compelling this to do it. Yeah, but I don't get anything out of it at all. That's the gloriousness of it. I've been left with nothing. For so long, I've seen its value. Yeah. So now you watch the mental state arise. It does its thing. It implies you moved and you've lost your way. Then it implies, well, you can find a way to get back to your way. And it just creates space and miles and time between you and what you are. It sells you maps. It has, you renew the GPS, even though when you woke up that day and you punched in, I want to be happy, joyous, and free. And then that night you're in jail. You fucking don't really question it because it's you. So that 2 days later, hey, I like to have a good time tonight. Bum, 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 bum. You're in jail. And you're wondering, how did this happen? Well, you did the exact same thing you did that got you in jail 2 nights ago. Yeah, we're being led by a failed system. Why is it that we have so much anxiety? There's no threat right now. Where is the anxiety being produced? I mean, Lazarus was supposedly raised from the dead by Jesus. That was a big miracle. But we're bigger miracle workers than that because at least Lazarus was alive. We're making shit out of nothing all fucking day. We're bringing up shit that has just like on and on and on. It's like we work in imaginary fields, harvesting imaginary anxieties all day. We're like indentured servants to the mental state. We got to jump off a bridge with a bungee cord to feel like we're alive. You got to shoot coke in your neck to feel like you're alive. Yeah. There's a sense of displacement. And then we try to move from that displaced point instead of questioning, is it so? If it ain't so, all of the rules and conditions that arise when it is get neutered. They're null and voided. There's not 1 second that's needed to spend to get to where you already are. It just becomes you for all intents and purposes. And it allows you to travel as not you much lighter. And after a while, really, you may give it a name, enlightenment, and everything, but if you had an ease and comfort and a satisfaction, that would be more than enough. If you could just be all right in the circumstances you find yourself in, and in the skin you seem to find yourself in, all that is fantasy making. If you were content and satisfied, it would be more than enough. Then your goals would be meager ones, like a latte or fucking a new shirt, or I'd like to get a new board or something like that. It wouldn't, I'm going to become the great. No, it's just, you become quite ordinary. You don't have loving gazes a lot of the time. You know, you're not sweating patchouli oil. People, oh, you're not a, energetic transmitter. You can be, but it's not the case. All you are is exactly what you've always been. Yeah. And what you're not can be exactly what it seems to have been. It doesn't have to change one iota at all for you to be what you already are. It does not have to change. It will, because it's changeable. But there's no requirement that it changes. It's after. How would it changing what's after affect what's before? How? Tell me. How am I going to produce an effect by changing what's after to affect what's before? When what's before, it cannot be affected. It's like the sky. It's like so beyond a condition. Just let that pebble drop. See if you hear anything. See if it hits any ending. See if you run into. Seeing is infinite because there's no object that ever lays its seeing on. It just goes on infinitely. Seeing hitting an object would be looking. Seeing never hits anything. It's just seeing, like a giant, huge field. I don't see how there's any fabricated real chasm between me and that. It's impossible. If it was, then there would be you'd get electric bills, you'd get a consciousness bill. Every month, that which would charge you for the consciousness it was laying through the pipes to get to you. But it doesn't seem like I don't get a monthly bill. It doesn't say, oh, you're running out. You should have bought more consciousness a month ago. It's now, but it's the 23rd of October. No, you're going off screen for 7 days, until you pay your bill. And then, all right, we'll pump more consciousness in. I don't see it that way. Do you? Do you really see it? Did you do any exercises this morning to, exert the fucking consciousness? No. Seems to have an infinite supply. There could be 8 billion people on a planet. There could be zillions of things, and consciousness will be moving through all of them. Yeah. It's just a huge field of something, but it's definitely not a thing. When I see something, a big arm called vision doesn't come out and see. There's no like a big eye in here. See, there isn't, is there? A whole demonstration, the basis of our life is no thingness. It's difficult, though, if you start from thingness to get to no thingness, because you are no thingness. It's not going to work. Just question the assumption that the mental state has us as a fact. Question it and see if it's so. And when it stops, when the selfing stops, what continues? What continues when the selfing stops? And it will stop. I've had accidents where the brain produces it, like this book, the book said, where I hit my head on the bottom of surfing, and I had gotten a concussion when I was younger in Australia, and so it shut down my whole system. Couldn't move. The nervous system shut down. Luckily, I landed on my back, and I had no movement. And I was just the selfing. There was no thoughts, streaming, nothing. It was just brightness, yeah. And then they got me out of the water. They brought me to the beach on a longboard, and the first people that came cut my wetsuit off. And then suddenly, the first selfing that arose was, I can't afford the ambulance. Let me die here, basically. Can you imagine that? The first thing, its point of view was, fuck it, I can't afford the ambulance. Like, I'm dying. And then I watch people riding big, expensive bikes, and they start falling. What do they try to save? The bike. They don't try to save themselves. They're like, fucking no, nothing can't happen to the bike, and you fall down the cliff, get broken legs. The mental state doesn't fucking value you at all. It's using you as for transportation. It actually hates you, really, because you're not enough. It does. It's so pissed off about your limitations. It's fucking crazy, but it has no relevance without it as a centerpiece. It has to have you to verify, because it can only verify existence by thinking about you in the past and the future, because selfing has no existent light. It's reflection. It's a reflection. It's truly a moon. Yeah? We take it to be the sun, but it's a moon. And so that sense of selfing has to be produced and reinforced by thinking about the body. And so it isn't enough that you think about the body now, but now you're thinking about the body now, but in past and future tense. And the future tense is an infinite field of thinking about the body. And you can imagine so much shit happening to the body in what's not happening. Tons of shit, and a lot of people do. They're just absorbed in it all day. But the beauty thing of it is in what's happening. What's happening has a quality. What's not happening doesn't have, which is it's happening. You may not like it. You may think it should be better, but it is happening. Yeah? What's not happening is all made up. I see people come to talks like this. They're totally flipped out, but it's never about today. It's about last week or next week. They're not responding to what's happening. They're reacting to a past event and a future event. That's slavery to me. And looking for what you are is slavery to me. Literally. It has nicer chains, better surroundings, but it's the same. That which is being put off, right? To become an object to that which isn't. With the hope that which is will give that which isn't something it doesn't have, which is that which is. But almost like an attribute. Let's sew some on. You know what I mean? So like people now with non-duality, they want to be a non-self as a self. They got a conceptual idea. They try to speak like that. They try to do like this. It's insane. It's like an incredible mental yoga. It's just trying to get into this posture of not having a posture. This is fucking sloppy. It's contradictory. Yeah? It doesn't make any sense. That's the beauty of it. If it made sense, I would really, really, really be fucking suspicious. I don't want to have anything produced out of my mental factory. I don't. So that's that with me. Also, I don't like long talks usually because I like beating a dead horse. This is an invitation, very simply. Not a dissertation, an invitation. I have a lot of faith in mind. I don't think you need a lot. I really don't. I think it's good to repeat it, but I don't think you need a lot of information. Yeah. Mind can, what happens with entertaining, the way I used it, is let's say a statement like this. The seeker is the sought. Yeah. And you don't put a period at the end of it. So that's introduced. The mental state, it goes through the mail slot of the mental state, but somehow the mind may get attracted to that because it's sort of a novel idea, you know? So the seeker is the sought. The mind now starts entertaining that. Yeah. And it's almost like it gives birth to a lot of fucking ideas and realizations just from that one little cryptic little statement. It produces volumes of sense feltness. The seeker is the sought. Yeah. Or what's looking is what you're looking for. Or they can't use the Buddha to seek the Buddha. They are mind-boggling volumes of quote-unquote spiritual information. Yet you couldn't even make a book out of it. You'd be like something you'd pass at a table, like when you wanted to give a girl your number. All right, here you go. And then, let me see, the seeker is the sought. You know, I was always wanting it if we could have like a public spiritual broadcasting company so we can interrupt like radio stations when people are driving to a retreat and go, The seeker is the sought. What hurt? You know what I mean? What's looking is what you're looking for. Put down that DVD. You know what I mean? See, I'm in recovery. Recovery is different because there's interventions and people get taken away. But in spirituality, no one's going to come up to you and go, all right, you've had enough of these talks. Come on, don't argue. No? But you can't take the book. No, come on. Get out of here. Okay. She's not coming back for quite a while. You know, there isn't going to be yes, you should continue going. Let me do it with everybody. You especially, yes. Come on, you need to go out.